meeting to order at 6 o'clock of the Budget Committee. Our guest is Public Facilities, Part 1. We got Part 2 tomorrow. So, I'm co-chair of the Budget and Renew. We'll go council people that's on the Budget Committee first, and then those that aren't, introduce yourself, and we'll go down the road.
Okay. Co-chair Scott Burns.
Amy Marie Vizzo-Panicia, Councilwoman 134th, Budget and Appropriations Committee member.
Jeanette Herron. Jeanette Herron. Committee member.
Geraldine, 136, committee member.
All right?
Alfredo Castillo,
Maria Valle, 137, non-committee member.
Afraid I not know committees. Anita Martinez, 139.
Hi, Nina.
Best dressed today. I like that outfit. Very nice. What?
Thank you.
Dasha. Well, she's recovered.
Yeah, she's recovered.
Dasha Spell, 132nd District.
Okay, let's go. Start right here on this side here.
What'd you say?
Here to be voted on.
From early.
Brett Caulfield, Superintendent Parks.
Come on right here.
Yeah, Jim Morton, CEO Beardsley Zoo.
Okay,
Rob Thomas, General Curator, Beardsley Zoo.
okay,
Sam Cotty, Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course.
okay.
Steve Roach from the golf professional at Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course.
Okay, did I miss anybody?
Yep.
Everyone here? Yep.
Paul Curry, Deputy Director of Public Facilities.
Paul Catino, budget for public facilities.
Ken Flato, Finance Director.
I'm Director.
Did I miss anyone?
Louis Burgos, Director of Public Facilities.
Last but not least.
Gone.
Tiago, Tiago, introduce yourself.
Joe Tiago, Deputy Director of Public
Hey,
Facilities.
Louis, can you introduce yourself, please? You did? I didn't catch it. What did you say?
Louis Burgos, Director of Public Facilities.
All right, John, right here. John, introduce yourself, please.
I'm sorry. John Mosier, Parks Department, Parks and Recreation. All right, Commissioner, thank you.
Did anybody get introduced? The two right here, tell them who you are, so when you videotape them and they swearing like me, I'll know who you did.
Oh, Castelletti Jackson, Victory Productions.
Pastor Barry Jackson, the Victory Productions.
All right, as you all know, I'll set some ground rules. The Budget Committee will look at numbers. If you got problems with your parks or anything else, you take Lou outside or the parks people outside the room there and talk about your parks. All I want to hear is numbers today. That's all we're here. Look at their budget, look at their personnel and those things. So that's what we're gonna stick to. Any other issue you might have with a department head, please bring them out in the lobby or the hallway. And you can talk all day to them if you like to. All right, do we have anything that we need to exhibit?
Yeah,
Let's do that first.
Okay, so thank you, Co-Chair. I handed out to committee members and others 2 documents that are from Central Grants. One is grant-funded projects, which is 14 pages, 7 double-sided, and then 3 pages of grant-funded capital projects. I apologize for the compression onto 1 page, but it's all there. I'll email it out to everyone who may want to have a digital copy or get it printed bigger. So.
Which one you want to exhibit first?
We'll do grant-funded capital projects. We'll call that 04232025A.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next.
And then the other one is grant-funded projects. And we'll call that 04232025B.
Now there's a second.
Amy Marie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
You want one?
Okay.
What page are we on? So everybody know what page you're on.
294.
Page 294.
So do I. First? No, this is first.
No, Parks,
Alright,
yeah, Parks admin's 294.
294, you divided.
Take my sticky off in here.
All right, we'll let Frank start off. And, let Frank start off with his, or unless they got a presentation, because usually let people do presentations. Do you have a presentation?
No, we don't have a presentation, we have too many departments, so Frank can actually kick it off.
Okay. Frank?
Right, so starting on page 294, I'm just gonna hit all the high levels very briefly, and then we can go into conversation and discussion. The revenue side, and that's on the top of page 294, notable increases, decreases. T-Mobile penalty fee and rent, that's just to reflect prior year actuals, and to budget that number appropriately to what we received. Same thing with the rent for the below it. The Seaside Beardsley checkpoint, that reflects a change, I believe. Aaron can add to that, but I believe that reflects a change in fees, $775,000 increase to the Seaside Beardsley checkpoint. The largest increase is Fairfield Child Wheeler Golf Course. That is reflecting just prior year actuals and the expectations that we'll continue to see the same amount of play, and that also that the fees will go up slightly. The Seaside Park rental, which we went over kind of last time with OPEC, that reflects the revenue from Sound on Sound. I did decrease that by $450,000. Actually, I did decrease that to $450,000 from $500,000, and that's one of the decision items that I had that I was going to present to you is, do we want to keep that at what was budgeted last year? Do we want to accept the reduction to $450,000? On the payroll side for this department, there is not any notable changes, so I don't need to go over that. On the equipment side, I have no other changes for this.
Let me just ask you a question. What was the rationale for the decrease of 50,000? So this committee, why you came to that conclusion that they should be, instead of $500,000, down to 450?
I had just looked at prior year actuals. I saw in FY '24 it was about $445,000, and then I don't know why this was done, but the revenue for Sound on Sound was booked in another org in FY '23. It also says Seaside Park rental, but it was also around $450,000, so I thought it was really enough, the number, but I haven't been through whatever the reconciliation for Sound on Sound is, so that's just the best estimate of the data that I have.
Okay, can you give us an updated figure on Sound and Sounds?
So this last year, that's relatively accurate. This does not include the reimbursements for the police DPW overtime. Those get credited right back to the department overtime accounts. So there's probably another $100,000 that comes in from the festival in terms of reimbursing our folks, that help out there.
Okay, so that's the new figure that it should, the monies that you're talking about is not reflected.
Right, but
in this figure here.
it offsets the overtime cost, so we kind of, you can't just say revenue because they're gonna spend the extra person power out there at the park.
Okay, since you've done that part, Lou, could you talk about, you see the deduction, and what would that do to your department, should that happen, so we can all be on the same wavelength? I have some idea.
So I don't know, Paul, if you want to chime in on the negotiation on the park rental.
You have to
Talk
speak up,
about
Lou. You have to speak up.
Talk about the revenue,
Well, he
The Seaside
deducted it.
Park rental.
Right, he deducted,
The deduction of the $50,000 compared to the previous years.
Yeah, he based it on actuals. If Ken is, you know, on board with that, department doesn't really have an issue with that, no.
okay, the department's fine with it, Councilwoman Martinez?
Through the chair, I thought we discussed this, Scott, previously at one of our, budget meetings that Fred Hodges had brought up that question before, so what was the,
Was it? I thought he
So-
asked about, I thought Fred had asked about something else, but go ahead. First
All
one.
right, through you, and I think what Ken said,
Yeah.
of course, we haven't seen any documents, but OPED said, yeah, it was something around 440-ish.
Right.
So, you know, for 2 years running, then that's pretty consistent.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Go ahead,
I mean,
Ken.
just one quick thing on one of the other revenue lines, you know, that Steve Roach, if you'd like him to address, but one of the nice things with the golf operation is, Steve, we revamped a little bit the way the driving range revenue works, and now excess driving range revenue that used to not go into a city account is now going into this account. So it used to be kept at this First Tee, they have a contract with First Tee, and they kind of manage that revenue when we needed repairs, but we now have that flowing through the city. So that added about $100,000 a year in payments to this regular golf revenue line. So that's one of the reasons that Frank was able to also see the revenues going up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, through you, Chip. So Steve Roach just developed course. Do you know what the numbers are then with the change in the driving range
I
fees?
think I put them on, but the driving range, we have a new machine that now accepts credit card and cash, and we have different size buckets.
Okay.
So it went from almost $100,000 a year to now almost $265,000, I believe.
Okay.
So now we're able to
Yeah.
get some of that back.
Fredo?
Louis, this is Joe. So these budgets, you guys gotta come here and you guys gotta fight, because once you're in the whole year, you can complain, they're like, hey, we need money. If they're taking stuff from you guys, this is the city park, city. We got parks all over. You let them take money out, you gotta speak up and say, hey, no, leave it alone, leave my money in there, we need this. Because once it gets approved.
That's understandable, yeah. That's
So-
basically revenue that it was taken away from,
but
you know, from the previous years. You just
Yeah,
gotta
but I'm saying,
maintain the
you
status
gotta-
quo. Yeah.
This money, you gotta use it.
Yep.
Because we gotta come every year, but if you guys need it, you guys need it. You guys, look at Seaside Park, sidewalks, you talk about it, sidewalks,
Yep.
we got infrastructure, it's big, and, you know, when you let people just take your money, you gotta speak up, and this is the time to speak up, Louis.
Let me, go right here.
I just wanted, through the chair, I just wanted to note that there are increases and decreases, but the net change to the parks revenue is about 300,000 to the good. So although there are increases and decreases, the revenue here is projected to increase by 300,000.
Since we were mentioning the parks, let me say this, I was at 2 parks this weekend. Just happened to visit Beardsley and Seaside. And let me say this. I do believe it's time for us to have some police department there. Let me tell you why. Because it was a disaster. Now, I'm telling you, cars were parked all on the grass, double parked. I mean, it was something like I've never seen before. And so I'm saying to the committee to say this. We definitely need to think about bringing the parks patrol back. I don't care what a lot of people say, we really need it, man. And I seen it with my own eyes. It was terrible. There wasn't no police down there to do anything. It was like the Wild Wild West. So I'm hoping that as we do this deliberation, we gotta do it, because this is the Park City. Public facilities can't do it all. local police can't do it all, but we need, and when I grew up here, we had police, not police, but park police at the park. How I grew up, so it's something we gotta do, cause it was terrible. I mean, thousands and thousands of people. You would have thought it was like the Wild Wild West down there. That's how bad it was. I mean, it was good to help people. Easter egg, but you needed some people down there. So I just want to throw that out. I hope they cleaned it up. I don't know if they did or not, but it was kind of tough. Marie, come on.
You're talking about that, they have events at the park, they should be hiring police there anyway, so that's something the park, I know with the permits that go, I know city nonsense or whatever, but if they didn't have any police there, that's an issue as well, because it's required. So Aaron, that's just another FYI.
You didn't have it. These items, unless they were undercover.
They didn't have a permit for that?
I know that you said that all you wanted to hear was numbers, right? But it kind of intriguing what Alfredo Castillo just said. Money's taken away from the park. Did you say that? Money was taken from the park?
He's talking about the 50,000. Wasn't that? Is expected revenue that they were expecting to have 50,000, am I correct?
That's a revenue.
That's a revenue number.
So what happened? Not gonna happen?
Through the chair, maybe I can. There's the expenses they requested are there. It's just that the amount that the festival generates, so we get ticket sale revenue, right, from the Seaside, what's it called? Soundside.
Oh, sound.
And the ticket revenue estimate last year was just a little too high. So that's why Frank adjusted it. Nothing was taken. Their expenses are still the way they had it. I mean,
We had to make an adjustment, because it was told us came in a little bit late. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't take anything from them.
it was just overestimated last year.
Councilwoman?
Let me just say this, we, the elected officials, are the power of this city. As the budget chair, you cannot sit across a full table of individuals and state what they need to put in place. We are the ones that need to put it in place, because we're the ones that hold the power here. And I'm gonna use this as an example. They can put in whatever they wanna put in. Who's gonna approve it? And we do need policing, but I'm gonna read not even the full email we received today, various council members from police department with regards to overtime being cut for assault investigation, sexual assault investigation, homicide investigation, shooting investigation. So if they're cutting the budget at the police department for these critical areas, how do you think that we are going to be able to implement funding to this budget to cover parks? So we, as the elected body, need to do better. We can't throw this at the department. We need to find the money to support the department and the parks that we as a whole serve in this city as elected officials. Thank you.
Next is,
Just through the chair, and we can talk about it when we get to the police department, but I do believe that the police department actually had a net increase in what I had budgeted for overtime. So I don't have what letter you're looking at, and I don't know the context, but I just want to, as far as the numbers in the budget are concerned, there is an increase for overtime, so maybe that's something that we're talking about.
That was just an example.
Okay.
I was just using that as an example. That was all.
okay, Amy Marie, then Scott.
I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, you did?
No, I was pointing to the
Okay.
front, because it was
Oh.
not being seen.
Go right ahead.
All right, so we've looked at the revenues on Parks Admin, and, you know, it's good to hear about the golf course. And I don't wanna get us off track, but we already started talking about golf course, so if we may, I was looking at page 276, which is the appropriation side for the golf course. And either through you, Chair, either to Frank or to Steve. the seasonal number, you know, it's increased 200,000, which based on, again, fiscal '24 and '25, and even looking at the projections for current, it seems more accurate, but can you explain a little bit about the thinking behind adding it? And maybe, Steve, you can explain a little bit about how the seasonals are used at the course?
So we have seasonals.
Oh, and Sam, yeah, sorry.
We have the seasonals at the golf course as, you know, rangers, starters, ticket sellers. I know as far as the increase, the state of Connecticut every year has been increasing their minimum wage. And that's one of the primary reasons for increasing that line.
Sam, anything?
Exactly like what Steve had just said, the number of the employees is basically the same on maintenance and predominantly the same on the golf operations in the top. It is because of the minimum wage, we haven't had an increase in the seasonal line at least 10 or 12 years. That number has not changed. So when minimum wage was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, you're paying 40 or 50 people off of that same base number. So yeah, so minimum wage now is $16.35, and then it could change with the state coming October for January 1. That's a possibility we have to look at too. So the new number does reflect off of what Stephen and I have projected. There is a small cushion there to be safe for come after January 1 of '26.
Okay, Rich, engineer.
Thank you.
We have a question, how many seasonals do you have?
On my side of the operation, I usually carry about 20 to 22 for the season, for the year.
Same for me.
Same for you?
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I don't mind the, it doesn't bother me when they, you got to do quite a bit, being that I play over here, so I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind spending my money over here. For me, it's okay, because even not, you don't get paid enough, and some of us aggravated people that do go over.
22 on the golf
And I
side.
gotta, some of my people know why aggravated when they play golf, but.
I'm just curious, you know, you're saying 20, 22 each, why isn't it in the book? It's all zeros, right?
So the numbers in the book are for full-time equivalents. With seasonals, it looks like historically, based on looking on prior books, that's a pooled position, so they'll charge multiple people to one position. So this is just historically how the seasonal payroll has been paid. If you look at last year, you'll be able to see it.
Okay. Mr. Curry?
Through the chair, just as the explanation that was given from our golf course is the explanation, and it's the same explanation that needs to roll over for our parks and admin. So we utilize seasonal for once we get into season for daily operation, and that number just only increased only $10,000. So what we utilize those seasonals for checkpoints, for bathroom attendants, for daily operation with all our parks. When we're adding parks I say every 2 years we add an additional park to our operation or to the city. I think our seasonal budget needs to be increased at the same time for parks maintenance. So that's one of the requests that Public Facilities has. So if you look on the past years of how we exceeded, I think an average of $250,000 in the seasonal budget. And if we go and increase that budget line to $250,000, then we could better manage to stay within our operating. And then we can keep those parks looking clean. Like once you said, you know, what you've seen was horrendous. And what it took to the manpower to clean that up was an 8-hour plus. So, you know, with the amount of manpower that we need to keep that operation going. And so that's just my request.
Let me ask a question. I was under the impression that when organizations bring out parks or whatever, don't they have to put up, what do they say? They have to put up the bond
Or
to make, or deposit to make sure the parks are clean when they leave. Do the parks, do you all do that?
Through the
So
chair?
let's- Go ahead.
So with big events, like the events that you've seen from the past Easter egg hunt, they go in front of the Parks Board, and with a big event permit, yes, they are required to get a bond. Now, if it's a small event or something that happened that we're not aware of, then no bond is had, or nobody's even being, I guess, enforced at the time. People have events there all the time that are not permanent. So these are the things that we have to maintain afterwards. And then even when, depending on when the event is taking place, it's hard for us to even report back if we're days late for that. You know, the event took place on Saturday, we're not working on Sunday. To report back on a Monday, it's just that, do we charge it for the event, or do we have, or was there people there on that Sunday that we just didn't have no notification of? So, but there is a bond required when it's a 50 and more.
Well, this was thousands of people, so this was more than just 50. Okay, so it was more than 50. So I think that, maybe we need to, take a look at that, because they should have had a bond for those. And don't share the cleans up, because I'm sure our hands are full when we went by there on Monday and looked at the park. Now can you explain to me again why you would like to increase for seasonals? I guess you was just talking about if you had more, you could do what now?
So through the chair, so it's no secret that public facilities exceeds the seasonal budget on an annual basis. So if you were to take on average the increase of how we exceed that budget and just get a roundabout number, then that's the number that I think will be the number that we should request for the increase. And once again, like the golf course said, the increases that are gonna have in the wages is gonna be a big effect on us. With our budget that's been the same for the past years, it doesn't reflect that. So we've been operating and we had to decrease, which we, like, once again, the parks have increased. One of the big parks that they're working on now is Sliver on the River. That thing is gonna have so many amenities. One of the things that people don't take in place is the amenities that we provide. To stripe a field, to clean a baseball field, to clean a bathroom, to clean a dog park, to even maintenance a playground, to make sure the playgrounds are up to par for the children. So the different amenities that we offer. Don't forget, we have beaches too. A beach is a lot of attention, and we're required to be deep rules, regulations, horseshoe crabs, and everything like that require more people to make sure that the city's not hit with any violations, fines, or anything like that. Making sure there's no garbage in the water and all that other stuff. So having the proper staff to manage it, and to make sure that we abide by all the rules and regulations that the state's put in place and other things put in place, it comes with staffing,
Let me just ask this question, because I can't remember. When the parks had its own staff, back in the day before they merged everybody, when the parks had their own patrol and own staff people that lived, we didn't have these problems all the time. Then we still had the same problems of,
There's always
you just mentioned.
through the chairs, there's always been situations of anything going on. It's not been a perfect circle of events going on. There's always a situation, but they've always done a great job. We've always gotten kudos with our parks and everything. But if you're talking, through the chair, if you're talking about public facilities or parks, because public facilities tomorrow, parks is tonight, so if you're gonna need that extra money for more than the golf course, but you share the seasonals with them, then that's for tonight. But if you need more money for public facilities, that'll be tomorrow's discussion, just so we don't get confused with the numbers and mixed up with it, I should say.
So through the chair,
Yeah.
so the numbers that I threw out there were for our parks.
Okay.
So there will be similar numbers for tomorrow's
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
Just kind of a practical question. Through you, Chair. Mr. Curry, is there a page or a line item that you're speaking of in terms of, you said there had only been like a $10,000 change?
Yeah, so if everybody goes to page 301.
301?
Yeah.
Thank
So you can actually see that FY 2023 actuals are 935, FY 2024 actuals are 884, and then what they put in a modified budget was for FY 25 was 605, and then what is being projected for FY 26 proposed is 615. So even if you were to take those two numbers from FY 23 and FY 24 and put the average, you can see that it exceeds the 605 or 615 number that's being proposed. that's why I came up with at least a 230 that we can stay within.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Through the chair, could I amplify that? I just want to help drive home that point just a little bit, because if we're really to live within the budget, which is a conversation we've had repeatedly lately with OPM, it means realistically reducing what we've actually do by a third. By a third. When you think through what that really will mean operationally, if you're not happy with how it looks, how it operates, how it is now, imagine getting a third less, because that's what we're going to have to do. Realistically, and you're not going to like the things I'm about to say, realistically you're talking about closing a checkpoint at least. Closing a checkpoint. Reducing or eliminating bathroom attendants. Drastically reducing field maintenance, drastically reducing park maintenance, park garbage pickup, everything that goes with cleaning up the parks. So if you don't like the way it looked this past weekend, if we reduce what we're doing to live within the budgeted number, that means reducing. Aaron just pointed out what the actual expenses there were. That means cutting by a third. So this is going to be drastically different if we actually do what we're being basically told to do. So if there's no budget increase, and we do indeed live within that budget, you're going to see changes in service levels that your constituents are not going to like.
Just before I turn it over to you, Ken, help me understand something. The fees that we receive at the checkpoints, and it goes into the general fund, I would assume. Why couldn't that money that we get from the cars that come in from out of state, we just up the total of out of state cars coming in? Why isn't that put back into the parks and recreation budget? I mean, I understand it goes to the general fund, but it makes a little more sense if that we're generating revenue for people using the parks. Why we've never done that?
Well, every department, almost every department has fees and revenue, but they don't say, oh, we need more staff because we're collecting taxes, even though we'd love more staff, right? So it's a similar principle. If you raise the fee, and I apologize, I don't know if the ordinance, if you did raise them, if the fees are being raised and you say to OPM Director McNary, hey, we're bringing in another 100,000 in fees, we'd like to up the seasonal park maintenance to 100,000, you know, that's a legit thing to do. You can just up that expense budget because you know the revenues are going up. I mean, my only, you know, mine might push back a little bit because I also had conversations with parks and with facilities about their seasonals, which have kind of run wild this year, frankly. While the need is there, they've always lived, you know, they've always been given some discretion to go above their budget because we always have some vacancies during the year. People retire, it takes 6 months to replace somebody, you know, and that stuff. So the department as a whole, for the most part, every year they've been able to live within their budget as a whole. You know, seasonals may be over by 150, you know, salaries and benefits under by 150, and it kind of evens out. My only concern about just saying, you know, we're going to raise every overtime account in PD or seasonal account, you know, in facilities is we've got a budget gap. So unless we raise taxes, where are we going to find the money? And that's the hard, you know, that one is what makes your job so hard. I wish I had the answer, but that's why, you know, they did, you know, Frank didn't cut their request. This is their request. So, you know, I mean, they could have asked for more, they didn't. I hawked them about spending more than the budget, but they are right. I mean, nobody's wrong here. You know, they have a case that makes sense, but I think it's hard to just, you know, if you pop the fees, then sure, you should raise the expense still up, you know, because the fees are coming in higher.
Mr. Kerr, go right ahead.
Through the chair. So, you know, I respectfully, Ken, the public facilities did raise the fees. So now, any out-of-towner fees have went up for day passes drastically. I just left some of you the other night with a committee meeting for park adult field rentals. So we looked to increase that $200 from the original $100. And then another thing too is that's not our request. So we did not request, a $10,000 increase.
Oh.
We requested 100,000 plus.
300.
Yeah, we increased the fields to 300. But, so we did go in front of the Parks Board last month, and they did vote on increasing all, like, out-of-state and out-of-town fees, non-Bridgeport residents. So that went through, and that's gonna be effective starting the start of the budget year. So all crews have been increased.
So do we, excuse me, through the chair, do we know if that increase is factored in here? In other words,
That's what we spoke
Yeah.
about, yes.
so then maybe they have a case to say they should get another 75,
Well-
you know, in the seasonal. I'm just saying it's a difficult
Yeah.
choice because you have so many issues with the budget this year.
I mean, through the chair, I can say, you know, ultimately, right, we all work together and, you know, the gentlemen on the other side of the table have a different responsibility, right? They're gonna advocate for their department and, you know, usually people try to get as much as they can, right? And it's not just their department coming to me with these things, right? You guys have heard other budget presentations, right, where there's a lot of people asking for things, right, with all the presentations that we have. And ultimately, I have the unfortunate responsibility of taking the global view of the budget, right? And the fact of the matter is that we have in this proposed budget, a $5 million number that we have to reduce, right, for decisions that have to be made by this board, right? And then we have a state aid number that, you know, may not come to fruition and that we have to make that in a fiscal year. So these are the guardrails that we have to try to live within. And I've heard the requests, you know, as far as the revenue going up and it being put back into the department, you know, the revenues for parks don't cover, right, the operational costs of the department, right? If you look at the operational costs compared to the department, you know, they're much higher, right? So the local government is not a fee for service. We're not a private company. We don't charge for what it costs us. This is in the general fund and the revenues, like other revenues, you know, get shared within the general fund. So, you know, that's my response to that. I mean, like I said, ultimately, we have decisions to make. And if we could find a way, you know, it would make my job easier to just say, yes, you get, you know, like, you get a farm, you get, you know, but I just can't, I just can't do it, so.
Well, I think ultimately the budget is in the council's hands. I appreciate you giving us the numbers because that's what we're gonna work on. But our seasonals, they are the lowest paid. They do probably the most work in our city, and I'm always for the underdog and talking about numbers. We have had a conversation about the raises that have been occurring, and that's something we're gonna have to go back to the table. Yes, we voted on it, but I think because of the crisis that we're occurring and what's happening with the Board of Ed, we have to really look at these numbers and see if we're gonna go through with all of this stuff. So I agree with Frank, you know, he's got the tough job, but we have the tougher job, because we don't have to agree to any of this.
And I agree with Jeanette. I agree with Aaron, Louis, Burgos, you know, Brad, you know, Tiago.
He's Brett. He's not Brad, he's Brett.
No, these are the departments that, you know, for me, and I think the council would, that you can pick up the phone and, you know, they're there and they never say no to us. You know, our constituents are taxpayers, you know, they want service, but like Aaron was saying, it was like, we're hiring these seasonals, we're not attracting nobody to come to Bridgeport to work here. $16, $17, grown man, 40, 50 years old, working, and you know, 6 o'clock in the morning to whatever. And we have to figure out, how do we attract people to come to work at Bridgeport? It ain't no $17 an hour. These are teenagers that are working like that, and they're living at home. I got one at home. He works for Public Works in Fairfield, making $30 an hour, $23 kid making $30 an hour in Fairfield. We're the biggest city, and we're attracting $16, $17. And Aaron, you want him to go to war with no soldiers? It's that department makes money. They just said it. We make money. Why did that money try to help at least public facility in the parks? These are our parks. People come here. Aaron, I sent you a picture yesterday from Trimble. They come, they park in our grass, They use our facilities for free, tennis court, basketball. They broke the gate, they get in there, you know, we see this. I show you a picture. It's like, and we can't even, and we're taking more from them, and expect them to do more. It's not right. So, Frank, I know you're new, but we gotta figure, if they're making the money, then we should equip them, because they're the ones out here every day. Snow, leaves, dirt, garbage, they're doing everything. The dump, it should be a business. People are going to dump at the dump and they can't even dump. Attract them to come here. Hey man, let me charge you for the money for the garbage, and then but they throw it in the street. They throw it in the street, and I gotta pick. Hey, somebody throw some garbage. We gotta use it as a business. We gotta attract money. This is a business.
Through the chair, I would just like everybody to keep this in consideration. A few items. As most of you have talked, we've had further conversations about enhancing the beauty, enhancing the new amenities of the parks. We're attracting more and more visitors year after year, right? So with that, it's a snowball effect. The more and more visitors we have, the more and more litter, the more and more exponentially mounds up. So, while we have to be financially responsible, and I do respect that, keep in mind that there are, new amenities that we're improving on the park. We're updating antiquated splash pads, new paint, everything that the city is asking for us to do. We're doing it with a minimal staff that is, strained, and as Mr. Castillo said, the neighboring communities, we're not even competing, but yet we offer so much more. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, we hear loud and clear. Scott?
So the revenue line, we talked a little bit about, and then hearing a little more, which is good, but the field rentals, because honestly, like, for me, I've never understood, we've got all these parks and leagues and teams and whatnot. So I don't understand how all that works. I know we have the line item, and most of that, from what I understand, is the music festival. But to me, I just think if you've got a team or a league or whatever, you're renting space, we should be charging a fair fee. So I'm glad to hear there's some discussion about increasing that, because there is a strong correlation there, right? So I don't know if Louis, maybe you can, through your chair, just get. I'm just curious to see what the current schedule is in terms of rentals and fees. A season versus a one-time thing. If we can see that, maybe we can help. Change whatever ordinance is necessary.
Yeah, through the chair. Just to kind of, go based on comment that Aaron mentioned, in the beginning. Originally, we were charging $100 per team to play in our fields. I think we kind of put in the request to put it up to 200, and I think, it kind of went up to 300. It's very comparable to the surrounding towns. That's something that's going to take effect now if it goes in effect. That's going to be a changing on the revenue itself. So like that, we're going to start now with the adult leagues. So I don't know if that's going to actually take effect on schools, and cause we do use a lot of the individuals. They use the parks a lot when it comes to the ball fields. You're talking about fields get utilized probably about 3,000 games per season, and again, sometimes it's just not enough. Like, it's me coming from the parks. The amount of games that we utilize, and I think with raising the fees, it's something that's gonna I'm hoping to benefit to the revenue. I don't know if you want to add anything when it comes to the fees, but.
Can y'all turn to page 296 for me, recommended services? Parks and administrative. And I'm looking at the revenue that we generate for rentals, the Seaside Park revenues. I look at the stickers that I guess park revenues. I look at the checkpoints at Beardsley Park and Seaside Park. Close to $500,000. And what I can't understand, I see the golf course revenues, that some of those dollars should not go into parks and recreations. And I'm sure the money that we do give, I'm sure some of it comes from there. But when I look at what we generate from the parks, checkpoints, rental fees, why is it that we have a food concession that I haven't seen open since probably I was a kid? I mean, we got things there that we could generate revenue. Why don't we do it? I mean, it's been closed. Help me understand that.
Through the chair. So one of the things that, with the help from Frank, is that he's been bringing it to attention that, the deficit that we could be facing. So one of the things that we have been working on with our Parks Department is increasing and renting out things. So that concession that you're talking about is probably the Grove once you walk in Seaside. And that is under contract. So it's gonna be open this year. So that's under contract, and so is the one at West Beach. So it went under contract last year. It just didn't make it for the opening of the season. At the same time, when it comes to baseball rentals, you are gonna see a $10,000 increase that you can lock in for the next 3 years. So you guys just voted on the other night, Sacred Heart, and Sacred Heart is gonna be under baseball rentals, and that's a $10,000 that they have to pay us on an annual basis. So that is one of the increases that you will see on that aspect of it as well. Another thing that we're looking to do is that the concession stand at Veterans Park is gonna go out for bid. So one of the big helps that the city has just did is they brought on Joe Formato, who's the property manager, and he's been working with our department, looking at ways that we can generate asset revenue from some of these concession stands and things like that. Another thing that's probably gonna be negotiated is the Little League that's on Blackham School. So we're gonna talk about that, cause that has a concession stand associated with it as well. So there is different concession stands around the city that we are looking at to generate revenue on, just so you know.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, and then maybe some of that revenue would go towards some of the changes that you want to see at the parks.
We also, I apologize, through the chair. We also have a food truck program that goes through the length of our season, which is Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then right now it takes place in Seaside, and that generates money as well. So we only have it where there's maybe like 4 participants or 5 participants because of the concession stands are in session. But for them to come and solicit at those locations, they do pay us, just so you know.
Okay, now I've heard some stories about the vendors that we did let go in, they were at one location, and I heard them, they didn't move around or something like that, so they're just supposed to stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has that been, because I was gonna ask you about the food truck, if we were gonna bring that back, because New Haven, it's fantastic. Are we promoting to get more vendors into the park? Because I know I've had people call me and they don't know who to call.
Through the chair. So we do have it where they have to go through our Parks Department, and once again, we only allow like the first come, first serve. So at Seaside, because there's 2 concession stands that are under contract, we don't want to take away from their revenue, that would take away from our income. So we have it where it's like only about 5 vendors that come, 4 or 5 vendors that come in. We haven't extended it to Bearsley and our other parks as of yet, but it's one of the things that we are working on.
Where are the 2 concession stands in Seaside?
So there's 2.
You have one at West Beach, all the way at the West Beach, and then you have one at the Grove. As soon as you go through the arches, straight
Right to
ahead.
the left of the arches.
That's open?
It's going to be this year.
Yeah, it'll be there.
This year,
Yep.
it wasn't open.
We tried to open it last year, there was some difficulties, so hopefully this year we
Is there a, somewhere where, with the food trucks and the concession stand, which brings in more money to the city?
Through the chair. So yes, the concession stands will probably bring in more money.
Probably, but you do not have something in front of you that is saying the concession stands bring more money than the food trucks.
So if you're going over a food truck and overall, or are you going on individual food trucks? Because we charge per food truck compared to like, if you're going off of how many we have that participate in the program. So under contract, the concession stand is under a 3% increase annually for a 5-year contract.
And
which
they're private?
Huh?
And they're private, these individuals?
Yeah, they're
They rent.
correct. So they rent out and they pay, I don't know what the number is at this time, but it was a 3% increase from last year. So I think it's like, I don't even have it off the top of my head. And for the food trucks, we're working on an increase of price that we have it if they do it for a month or if they do it through the season, which they'll get a discount. So I think for like your guarantee, it's gonna be the concession stand that'll probably bring more money into. Correct.
All right, are there anything else we need to
Where's
talk
Anthony? Can we turn his ear down or off, please? Because I didn't say I was coming to Alaska tonight. It's freezing in here. It's still cold.
Okay, let's, we have the zoo here, let's hear from the zoo. Then we have, the golf course, let's hear from the golf course people that we may have missed. So we'll give everybody an opportunity to say something about their budget if they like it. Let's go with the zoo.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. We have a relatively flat budget from last year, so nothing of particular note, but we're happy to answer any questions that people may have.
Sorry, page 278 for those who are playing this report.
Thank you.
I understand we have a new person at the zoo, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's me.
Okay, welcome aboard, man.
Thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead. Yeah, go right ahead.
I could just add that, the number in the revenue is per the state budget, what governor's proposed. The personnel, there's an agreement between the city and the Zoological Society. And in the schedule attached to that agreement are certain positions that need to be funded. And so that's where the positions in the budget come from. And it also requires us to pay certain operating expenses, which is where their general appropriation numbers come from. So, like they said, not much change besides health insurance and fringe benefits and so on. So there's not much to change yet.
Just a question, in terms of I'm reading it right, where it's got VAC, are those vacancies, it's got 4 vacancies?
I believe.
Is that?
Mr. Chairman, no, we have 2 that are currently being resolved, and we have 2 that are true vacancies that we have plans for this year. Plans to fill.
Elaborate a little bit, like which ones are filled or?
Sure, so the two keeper positions we are just in the process of doing the paperwork on those 2 positions.
Okay.
We have a senior keeper position, which we'll be advertising for shortly.
Okay.
And then there is the position that was previously occupied by Greg Danjo, that we are in the process of considering how to evolve that position into a new role at the zoo.
Okay, so you're staffed pretty well, because I saw where it was 4, but you said those are in the process of being filled, am I correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
all right. Any new animals over at the zoo?
So we have, we've always got something new coming to the zoo. We are just refinishing the rainforest this month. So that should be within a couple of weeks. You should see a really beautifully refreshed rainforest, which may come with a couple of different animals.
Nice.
And then we also have plans to bring in an animal called a Chinese goral, which is a mountain goat, and it is an animal that is not displayed at many zoos around the United States. So it is a relatively unusual and special animal that we'll have at Beardsley. It should be very cool for people to see.
Okay, all right. Go right ahead, Scott.
So through your chair, maybe State Rep Mr. G might be able to help, but you know, we always have a revenue line for the zoo from the state, and it usually comes up short. Do you, any sense?
It always comes up short.
See how the speaker feels. It should come up short again.
Oh, good. You said it with a smile, that's good. Okay, I figured that was the case. And just the other piece, you know, really to welcome Mr. Morton. You know, he replaces a legend of sorts, and that's a big attraction, and, you know, as we say, one of the gems of the city, so.
And the only one in the state of Connecticut, too.
And the only zoo in the state of Connecticut, so, yeah.
Just through the chair, we should check, because I think there's the last payment for this year we gotta get from you guys for the subsidy, that hasn't come yet, but there is a budget increase that I thought the governor's proposed has a $70,000 proposed increase in aid, or is that?
So,
Because it's in the budget book, so that's why I was.
Yeah.
So it went from, in the governor's budget, it went from 400 that.
No, never mind. Sorry, no.
No,
Sorry, my bad.
But it's reflected as an increase in this budget, but it's actually in the governor's proposed budget, it shows that as a decrease. But.
Sorry I asked.
Yeah. So.
But they're not finished with the budget yet.
Leave this alone.
So,
Tony, through
go right
if
ahead.
anyone else wants to
Go
speak.
ahead.
Tony Walker, this is one of her special places, so she tries to look out for that. In the multitude of budget issues we have in the state, I don't know if this is the right list.
All right. Who's gonna be next? Let's do the, Fairwheel Golf Course. Huh? Yeah, let's get the golf course out there. How many holes you guys doing today? No, I'm just kidding. Anything you guys like to?
I mean, the operating budget from my overview is pretty flat. It looks the same except for payroll. It's
What page is the golf course on?
53.
Frank, you got anything to say it's been like this since?
No, I went over, I think we went over the payroll and seasonal piece, and so it's really if there are any questions related to any of the operational expenses, I think.
Sorry, mumbling that there's not much to change here.
Right.
Councilwoman Spell.
Councilwoman Spell?
Hi. Out of curiosity, how many seasonal workers do you have?
So we have two different departments. We have the maintenance and then we have the golf shop operations. So
Okay.
on my side, I usually hold between 20 to 22 ballpark. And
Same thing.
Okay.
so usually you're about a total combined 45 to no more than 50 ballpark.
Go ahead.
A little bit more on the capital and upgrade side. Where are you? I know we've funded some improvements over the years, so how is that looking and where are we on that?
Currently, we have a bid, it's in preparation for the car path extensions. The car path extensions are basically where a golf cart path leaves off. So we're gonna continue it to the next hole and make it a complete loop. It's gonna be done in 2 phases, this year and continue into next season. The anticipation behind this project is for revenue generation to increase cart sales. So inclement weather, heavy rains, flooding, we don't want the damage on the turf, on the grass, or on the fairways. So we can leave the golf carts, sell them, and leave them on the cart path.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Through the chair, just so you guys can know, so currently they completed every sand bunker at the golf course. So all the sand bunkers are now up to par. At the same time that they did increase more spaces on the driving range. So with those more spaces that they added to the driving ring, it will generate more revenue, just so you guys know.
Pretty wants a little bit of golf.
Yeah, I mean, you're never too old to learn. I may go out there and beat the sand up a little bit, but they're great.
Thank you. On the golf course side in the parks area where we have the parking lot there, and I know that it's used by Sacred Heart for some of their off-site parking, do we have a revenue for that? That's up to par of what the business property and contracts use, not just municipality. I see that we also give too much away, and it's not the right rate. I know last year they let the Sacred Heart use their field, use the parking lot at the, on the Fairchild Wheeler side through the eastern side, and I'm just wondering what the revenue is there.
The only thing that comes to my mind that we, for homecoming for the hockey, Sacred Heart did go through the park board to request overflow.
Correct, but
That
what are we
was-
charging? There should be a revenue since we're held liability.
I believe we made them get a bond, an insurance certificate for any damages to the property or anyone's vehicles. I don't recall any revenue for that.
I think that's something we need to look into because it's,
That was like a one-time, it's like a one-time annual event.
there should still be a fee onto that, as similar to the fees that, you know, with all of our other rentals. Thank you.
Councilwoman Spell?
Out of curiosity, you have a restaurant on site, correct?
Yeah.
Is that part of the revenue that's coming in? Like, do you bill them
Yes.
for rent?
Yeah, that's not really for them, but if you turn to the page with revenue, I'm sorry, okay, Mr. Chair?
Yep, good.
Let's get the right page, 271. Yeah,
294.
294,
is the
thank you.
revenue page, yes. It's the object number 45342.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yep.
that's it.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
similar to a triple net type lease. They do maintenance there and they do upgrades. So they just don't rent the facility and use it. They are using, they do,
Other parts.
correct.
So through the chair, just so you know, it's been voted on at the Parks Board for us to renegotiate their contract. So we're in negotiations right now to increases for the lease. So that's gonna be happening. It's under negotiation as we speak, since it's been approved by the Parks Board. All right.
Mr. Parks, ma'am?
Through the chair, I'd like to say that Aaron Curry, Brad, Louis Burgos, the Parks Department, they do a wonderful job. And I'm honored to be in the position I am in on the commission. And we do all we can to support them, and we appreciate council supporting them too. We're looking forward to a very productive year. All the increases that we're trying to do, bring in more revenue to our parks. As it's been said many, many times, this is the Park City. I am very proud of the staff that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to, we did the zoo, we did the golf course, what's last?
I got
You
a
still got a
question
question?
on recreation, which,
Come on recreation, Scott. What page, Scott?
yeah, sorry, 286.
Through the chair, we're all set with this guy.
Yeah. You're all set.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
good evening. 296, okay.
I have a feeling I've asked this question before, but I'll ask it again. Seasonal employees on this line says under grant. truly under grant, or is this just sort of a blip in our
What are we looking at?
old numbers? On the personnel page, the very last line,
Seasonal employees,
seasonal employees under
400,000.
grant. I don't, do we truly have a grant on this? I don't think we do.
Yeah, we don't have no plan when it comes to recreation department.
This is just like an old
I just-
lingering typo kind of thing.
It's just the language that was used, and I can get rid of it.
Okay.
There's no grants.
Yeah, I didn't think there was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, are there any other issues we want to bring to public facilities or,
I'll ask one hard
go
one.
right ahead.
We've talked about this already, this budget session and in the past, but the idea of trying to shift the park sticker annual process to something online or through the mail or something like that. I know Commissioner Ozier and I have talked about this, and I've spoken with the leadership of public facilities as well. I would just like to say, to encourage that. One, I think it would be a revenue boost. I mean, if you look at the numbers, if you kind of work through a sense of compliance, you know, people get it in the mail, it's easy, right? They're more likely to respond. And then the other part, and again, I think I've said this before, but compliance. So, you know, we have some parks in the city that are easier to get into than others. If you see people generally disregarding the need for a sticker, then other people disregard it, and you have a downward spiral. So, again, I know there's some conversations about that. I would, again, strongly encourage that. You know, if other communities can get it done, I think we can. I know we've talked about counterfeit stickers and things like that. I understand that's a concern, reality. But again, I feel like we would be a little more modern and figure out how to do that, so.
I'm gonna go something else. I got a question. It's just a thought. What if, we know everybody that's got vehicles in the city, right? It's our car. It would make a lot of sense, I don't know how you do it, if the stickers are, how much was one sticker? What was it? 15 or 20, right?
15.
15 residents.
15? That when people get their taxes or renewal for their cars, you gotta pay your cars quarterly, that we just charge them. When they come in to pay, they'll get a sticker and their registration or whatever they gotta pay to do it. With their taxes.
So through the chair, I'll turn it over to
I'm just
Fred G,
throwing out
but we
because
can't
a lot of
legally,
people-
we can't legally require people to, pay a sticker, put it on the tax bill. It's illegal to do that.
State did it.
No,
I'm just asking.
you can't do it on property tax. There's no state
Okay.
statute, but I think
But what
there
about
is,
when
there
you
is
pay
stuff
your
we're trying.
car tax? I'm talking about car taxes.
Right, but we can't,
Everybody gotta come in and pay, what is it, 2 quarters, you pay
Twice a year.
or whatever. So you're telling me you can't do it?
well, there's no legal way to do it, correct, because you can't force somebody to buy a sticker. You can't say we're taxing people to buy a park sticker.
There was a time when the city would give free tickets.
Well, that's
Did
different.
nobody say
That's
that was
different.
illegal?
That's, if you all decide to make it free, that's a different story.
Do you
But,
remember that?
but, Counselor, through the chair, if it's possible, maybe, I know the CO's office has been, with facilities, I was in one meeting, they are looking at the idea of trying to modernize this. So I don't know if Fred maybe wants to throw some thoughts to you, or Aaron.
Through the chair, we have some ideas that we're floating around with the Parks Department, but state statute will not allow us to add a fee to the tax bill for the car tax. And, just for future references, we're phasing out the car tax. By 2029, the state will phase out property taxes on vehicles.
Well, do me a favor, when we go get our license renewed, can you phase that tax out too? Because we get taxed, so it's all right for the state to do it.
Yeah.
But municipalities can't, wow.
We had a meeting with a vendor. Ken was in the meeting. Ken was in the meeting, and they told us that it would be difficult for us to do that. And then Ken gave the backdrop as to why we couldn't do that.
All right, I just thought it was a good idea, try, you know, if the state can charge taxes when you go, maybe start to get your license from the state, they make you pay that fee.
Mm-hmm.
But through the chair,
But we can't do that.
I think through the chair though, we'd love to, I think everybody would like to find a way to be able to do it online. And the hope is maybe within a year to try to develop a process. It might cost a little upfront for ITS, but a lot of cities and towns do allow you to buy the stickers online, and they'd have to do some processing.
Go right in there.
I know it's not something new. There's other towns and cities within the state of Connecticut on the coast that have beaches and parks to get the stickers. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, look into them, because I know for Milford and Norwalk, you have to go there and pay for it, and then you get your sticker. Sometimes you have to make sure they see that you're fixing it to your vehicle. When my daughter moved to Norwalk, they gave her just an 8x11 paper, and you put it in their car. So that's a little bit behind for Norwalk, but you have to go in person.
That's right.
Well, they're working hard on an idea to do have both options.
You just gotta watch out
But
for fraud and
yeah.
stuff, that's all, like it used to be.
And unfortunately, stickers now, because we don't have the license plates on them, it's easy to, unfortunately, misuse them.
Through the chair. So public facilities and parks and recreation has been doing our due diligence. So we met with multiple vendors on solutions and modernizing technology where we could sell stickers online and have it mailed to people's houses. And we also entertained the idea of using company QDS who does the taxes, but like Ken said, the meeting just went a different way. So we have been working on it and trying to see what is the best option for the city. We also did our research and we did comparables to other towns. Now the reason that they're able to mail their stickers out with the plate number to residential is because that their beaches and parks are free to taxpayers. So that's the reason why they're able to incorporate it with the tax bill. So if we're gonna do that, then we're gonna lose revenue. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't gone that option as of yet.
We used to be free many moons ago, and they would send just 2 stickers to your house. But that was 7 years ago. All right, did we miss anybody? Did we miss anybody, any department that needs to say something? Okay, let me just close with this. I know why we use seasonals, because we don't pay no benefits and all that stuff. But maybe the time has come, because listen, I wouldn't work for no $16 an hour or 15 or whatever it is. So maybe it's time that we might get a better bang for our dollar than what we pay in overtime if we just hire people full-time to come and clean our parks. Because like you said, they're there 4 months. But, we probably would get a better, from what we're spending for overtime, we probably get a better bang for our dollar just by saying, look, let's bring 20 new people on public facilities or whatever, let's pay them, you may come out better.
I would then request to the co-chairs, the finance departments and through parks to then give you a cost analysis on that, because what are the pros and the cons? Because it might still be a pro thing to keep the seasonals, because you also have all those added benefits and workers' comp, et cetera, so that's an added expense to the cities /city taxpayers.
I hear, again, you're saying about our seasonals, they deserve to be paid more money. But I also would like to remind us, the council, that several months ago, we gave a big raise to a lot of people, and they put them all in there, right, in a group, and we forgot about the little people. So it's time that instead of, and I gotta say this, attacking one another and who had a meeting with who, secret or not, that we start looking at these little things that are occurring, because then we can have individuals to help out in whatever, or not help out, work, and let it be more fair and consistent, because sometimes we do have a good seasonal person, and then we gotta let them go for X amount of months or a month, and then rehire them. But again, I hope that this council really sits and look at what we're doing, because you know what? Those races that took place shouldn't have.
Councilwoman Martinez, and then we'll wrap it up.
Want to agree with my council colleague, and I think that our seasonals do a phenomenal job here in the city, and lack of seasonals is why we have lack of a shitty looking Bridgeport, excuse me. And it's a lot of work for our HR, a lot of work for our department heads, a lot of work for those that have to do the application process, because you're constantly bringing in seasonals after seasonals after seasonals. Here's the other thing, this is costing the city money, because these seasonals have to go get physicals, they have to go do urine tests. So if we stick to a budget with a allowable number of months for the seasonals, I think we could get more butter and bread than where we at today. So I have to agree with my council colleague, as elected officials, we are to blame ourselves, because we don't put our feet down to the structure of how this city should be ran. We come to budget, we come to committee meetings, we talk about it, but we do the opposite of what we talk about.
Kidding.
That's all I have to say.
All right, so, tomorrow, same time, same station. It's public facilities.
Motion to adjourn.
Tomorrow also, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, for dinner.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you for dinner. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you all.
You did a great